What's up guys, and welcome to another Make It Happen video. Today we're going to be going over Pathfinder. Now, this can be a pretty scary tool for the first time user. There's a lot of options within the Pathfinder tool, but it's well worth learning. And if you're like me, you probably started out by knowing you needed to use one of these tools, but not knowing really what each one does and just kind of clicking through until you figured out which one to use. Today I'm going to try and demystify it a little bit and hopefully help get you moving into the right direction. So to start out, we've got two different rows here. The top part is called shape modes and the bottom is pathfinders. We're just going to start out with the shape modes and move right on through. So beginning with unite, which is this first one, we can go ahead and select our shapes, click unite, and we can see that it merged those two distinct objects into one compound shape. And notice that it kept the coloring of the uppermost shape. With all of these tools, the layers and the order matter. So make sure that you know which colors you're wanting to keep and what each specific tool does to those colors. Another selection that's worth noting is if you select these and hold down Alt and then press unite, it will actually keep the original shape outlines, and this is called the expanded Pathfinder. So otherwise there's no shapes retained, it's just one compound shape. Moving on to minus front, this tool basically works like a cookie cutter, cutting out that top shape from the bottom one. So just punches out that shape, and if we have a filled shape and something like a letter, we can use Pathfinder to essentially punch out those letters from the shape. It's an extremely handy tool for combining shapes. You can see here with this letter now, we have one compound shape with that letter cut out. You don't have to deal with fills, it's a nice transparent outline. Very, very useful tool. Intersect will keep the material between the two objects. So this overlapping area between the yellow and the gray, it will keep, and notice it retains the color of the topmost layer. We can do a similar but reversed option with exclude. It keeps all of the material that isn't overlapping and again retains the color of the topmost layer. So this is the top layer of Pathfinder called shape modes. We'll move on to the pathfinders. The first one is called divide. This is a very, very useful tool, and basically all it does is segment these shapes. So where it's overlapping, it creates a new shape in here. Now we have a set of distinct shapes. And when you use the divide tool, it automatically groups them together. So you either have to use the direct selection tool or ungroup this object before you can modify it. Trim will first of all get rid of the stroke on the underlying shape and removes the parts of the objects that are overlapped. So this object on the bottom is now cut out where this top shape was. Merge is very similar, and in this case it's going to look identical, except for one important distinction. First of all, it groups the object, and then if there are two objects with the same color, so if I just create another box here that's the same color red and then use the merge tool, it will create a compound shape amongst objects with the same fill. So trim won't do that and merge will. It's a pretty important distinction, but otherwise the tools will look very similar. Crop will use this top object to cut away the other shapes. So notice how all that remains is the bottom shape where it overlapped with the top shape. Now this is another useful place to throw in a letter. Go ahead and outline that letter and throw it in here on top, and you'll notice that this R will now fill with those parts from the shapes. So it's basically using the letter to mask out the shapes that are beneath it. And then outline, it's a pretty obvious one. It converts the object into outlines. It's handy to increase the stroke at this point so you can kind of tell what's going on, and notice that it kept the colors but just added an outline here, and where it's overlapping it retained the color from the top shape. And then minus back does exactly the opposite of what minus front does. It uses the back shape to subtract from the front shape. So now we're left with just this top shape where it wasn't overlapping with the back shape. And that's pretty much it. These tools are extremely useful. It's worth playing around to figure out all of the ins and outs and all of the places that you can use these shapes to most benefit you in your work. And by the time you get some good practice with them, your workflow will increase dramatically. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.